The city of Paris is often called the City of Light, a place of romance, high fashion, and luminous boulevards. But beneath the feet of every tourist sipping coffee at a sidewalk cafe, there exists a world that the sun has never touched. Down there, in the damp, claustrophobic silence of the earth, the geometry of the city changes. The avenues are replaced by narrow, winding tunnels, and the limestone walls are replaced by the stacked remains of 6 million human beings. This is the Empire of Death, a subterranean labyrinth stretching over 200 miles, far beyond the small portion accessible to the public. While the surface world celebrates life, this shadow world guards the secrets of the dead and the living who dare to haunt its depths. The story of the Catacombs doesn't begin with a fascination for the macabre, but with a crisis of the living. By the late 18th century, Paris was literally suffocating under its own weight. For nearly 1,000 years, the Cimetière des Innocents, the city's largest graveyard, had been the final resting place for countless generations. It was centrally located, right next to the bustling market of Les Halles, and it was filled to the point of absurdity. Mass graves were dug so deep and packed so tightly that the ground level had risen several meters above the surrounding streets. The stench was unbearable. It was said that the air was so thick with the scent of decay that it would turn milk sour and spoil wine in nearby cellars. The breaking point came in 1780. After a period of heavy rain, a basement wall of a house bordering the cemetery collapsed. It wasn't just dirt and stones that spilled into the resident's cellar. It was a flood of skeletal remains and rotting corpses. The city realized it could no longer ignore its dead. The solution lay in the very foundations of Paris itself. Since the Roman era, miners had been carving out limestone to build the city's grand monuments, leaving behind a Swiss cheese network of abandoned quarries. In 1786, the Great Relocation began. For 2 years, every night, a somber procession of black-draped wagons moved through the streets, accompanied by priests chanting the office for the dead. They carried the bones of millions to the quarries of Tom-Issoire. At first, the bones were simply thrown down wells and piled in heaps. But in the early 19th century, a visionary named Louis-Étienne Ricard de Thury decided that the dead deserved more than a disorganized pit. He transformed the quarries into a visitable mausoleum, arranging skulls and femurs into elaborate, morbid patterns, mural-like walls of bone, altars of remains, and pillars of calcium. He placed plaques with philosophical warnings and poetic meditations on mortality. When you pass under the lintel that reads, "Stop, this is the Empire of Death," you aren't just entering a cemetery, you are entering a curated temple of the afterlife. But the official catacombs, the portion where tourists line up for hours, represent less than 2% of the total tunnel network. The rest is a forbidden zone, a dark wilderness known only to a shadow community called the Cataphiles. These are the modern secret societies of the underground, a loose collective of explorers, artists, and rebels who have claimed the darkness as their own. To be a cataphile is to live a double life. By day, they are students, engineers, or librarians. By night, they slide through manhole covers, navigate sewer systems, and squeeze through narrow fissures in the earth to enter the Cata. This subculture has existed for decades, developing its own folklore, maps, and unspoken laws. While the police, a special unit known as the Cataflics, patrol the tunnels to catch trespassers, the Cataphiles stay one step ahead. They have transformed these forgotten spaces into something vibrant and surreal. Deep within the earth, Far from the reach of GPS or cell service, they have built secret cinema rooms, ornate dining halls with stone tables, and even small galleries of underground art. In 2004, Paris police were stunned to discover a fully functioning movie theater in a cavern beneath the Trocadero. It had a professional-sized screen, a projection room, a stocked bar, and a sophisticated electrical system pirated from the city grid. When the police returned a few days later to investigate further, the equipment was gone, replaced by a note on the floor that simply said, "Do not try to find us." The most famous of these secret groups was La Mexicaine de Perforation, an urban explorer collective that staged underground festivals and film screenings. They don't see themselves as vandals, but as the true custodians of Paris's history. They navigate by hand drawn maps passed down through generations, some of which are more accurate than the official city records. For them, the catacombs are a place of total freedom, a realm where the laws and social hierarchies of the surface world no longer apply. In the pitch black, everyone is equal. However, the catacombs do not suffer fools lightly. The darkness is absolute, a heavy, velvet void that can swallow a person whole. The tunnels are a maze of identical limestone walls, flooded passages, and sudden drops. History is littered with those who entered the darkness and never returned. One of the most famous legends is that of Philibert Aspère, a doorkeeper at a local hospital during the French Revolution. In 1793, he entered the quarries through a staircase in the hospital courtyard, carrying only a single candle. His body wasn't found until 11 years later. He was identified by the hospital keys hanging from his belt, just a few feet away from an exit he couldn't see in the dark. His tombstone still stands in the forbidden tunnels today, a grim reminder of how easily the Empire of Death can claim a new citizen. The people buried here are not just anonymous peasants. The catacombs serve as the ultimate equalizer, a place where the bones of the nameless poor are intermingled with the elite. Somewhere in those stacks of femurs and skulls are the remains of Maximilien Robespierre, the architect of the Reign of Terror, who met his end at the guillotine. Beside him may lie the bones of his victims. Jean-Paul Marat, the radical journalist, is here, as is the legendary writer Charles Perrault and the famed chemist Antoine Lavoisier. In the eyes of the catacombs, their titles, their crimes, and their achievements have been stripped away. They are simply calcium and carbon, part of the geological layer of the city. There is a strange, haunting beauty to the silence down there. If you sit still enough, you can feel the vibration of the metro trains passing far above, a rhythmic pulse of a world you have left behind. You realize that Paris is a city built on top of its own ancestors. The very stone used to build the Notre Dame Cathedral and the Louvre was pulled from these voids. The city above is a mirror of the hollows below. The secret societies that haunt these tunnels speak of the call of the deep. It's a psychological phenomenon where, after hours in the tunnels, the mind begins to play tricks. Shadows seem to move on the periphery of your vision. Some claim to hear whispers in the drafty corridors or the sound of footsteps following just a few paces behind. While skeptics point to the effects of sensory deprivation and nitrogen buildup, the cataphiles believe the tunnels have a memory of their own. They speak of the spirit of the quarry, a collective energy of the millions of souls whose resting place has been disturbed by time and curiosity. Even today, the catacombs continue to guard their secrets. New chambers are discovered every year, hidden rooms that haven't been entered in centuries, containing 18th century graffiti or tools left behind by long-dead miners. The Inspection Générale des Carrières, the government body responsible for the tunnels, works tirelessly to map and reinforce the network to prevent the city from sinking. But even they admit the task is nearly impossible. The labyrinth is too vast, too complex. As we look at the history of the catacombs, we are forced to confront our own relationship with the past. Most cities pave over their history, pushing the old aside to make room for the new. But Paris has kept its history directly beneath its feet, stacked in neat rows, watching and waiting. The secret societies that navigate these tunnels remind us that there is always a world beneath the surface, a hidden narrative that runs parallel to the one we see in the light. Whether it's the ghost of Philibert Aspère wandering with his extinguished candle, or a group of modern cataphiles sharing a bottle of wine in a hidden stone chamber, the message of the catacombs remains the same. It is a place where the boundaries between the past and the present, the living and the dead, become blurred. It is a reminder that the City of Light owes its very existence to the darkness beneath. As you walk the streets of Paris today, look down at the manhole covers and the cracks in the pavement. Think of the 300 kilometers of silence stretching out beneath you. Think of the 6 million stories etched into those bones, and the secret world that thrives in the shadows where no light ever reaches. If you had the chance to step into the darkness, to walk among the architects of the French Revolution and the secret explorers of the modern age, would you take it? Or is some history better left buried in the deep? The catacombs are waiting, patient and eternal. A silent empire that reminds us all that eventually we all become part of the city's foundation. What will be the legacy you leave behind in the dark?